Hey guys, it's mcfixit. We're back here for another disc die. This time I'm taking an F2. This is the FD, so it's a factory second. That's what the F2 stands for. And it's a Discmania disc, and they just recently came out with this new stamp for the originals. This was kind of like their first run, so I kind of made a little spoof off of it, and because this is the Innova-Run, you can kind of see that it was made by Innova Champion Plastics right there. And so we will go ahead and erase the original F2 stamp and go ahead and put on a stencil die. We're going to walk through all the tools, supplies, the details, exactly how you can do this. I made this on Photoshop, so I took some of the original and then I edited it up to make it kind of fit a little bit more of what I wanted it to say. So we went ahead and put this on a Cricut, and this is an Oracle 5160. And I will be honest, it's going to be kind of hard to see. You'll see a little bit of it, but it is going to be a little difficult to see, and I'll kind of walk through how I do that. You need some transfer paper. All I did was just fold this in half twice, drew a line, and then I put a disc and drew around it with a Sharpie. So transfer paper comes in a big thing. You can use it about 10 different times. We're going to be using a hotbed method. So we got a old nasty pan, a electric burner here. So I bought this one on Amazon, pretty inexpensive, works well. You only have to put it up to about like 2 or 3. We're going to be using iDye Poly Black, and so I just put warm water in a mason jar all the way up to pretty much the top, took half of the packet and dumped it in, shook it around, and so that's our dye mixture. You'll want a funnel to put it all back in at the end. I like to use a lot of Dawn dish soap and water. You can take it to your sink, but you pretty much can get it done right where you're at. Acetone is very helpful. Get some good quality acetone. You're also going to want some paper towels. My paper towels are off to the side, and so have plenty of paper towels around. Some kind of pick tool that you can pick and weed. Some kind of scraper tool. You can use a credit card or an old gift card, whatever you'd like to do. A pair of scissors is often very helpful. Rags, more paper towels, then probably some more paper towels. This is kind of messy, and so want to make sure you're prepared. I use a really old work surface. This is a table I've built that holds all my different supplies. You can tell I've spilt a lot on it, which is fine for me. Don't really care that much because I kind of keep it contained. If you're doing this in a kitchen, put something down like a big old towel or something, because you don't want dye staining everywhere. Again, this is a workstation, so I'm okay with doing that, but you may want to do something different for that. So we're going to go ahead and set up our work area now and just kind of get some stuff kind of out of the way so we can get all of this set up ready to rock and roll here in just a few seconds. And so the first thing I want to do is go ahead and remove the old stamp. And I broke the cap off of this, so I just gently put it back on. And this should not take a lot to get off because it is so small. And right there did it. And I was trying to find out why this was an F2, and I believe the reason it is an F2 right here is a little spot. You can see it in the plastic. So that is the whole reason this is a factory second. The other thing about factory seconds, a lot of times they like to put an X on it, which I don't necessarily like, but that's fine. We'll work around it. And you can kind of still see that it says factory second. Now, one of the things you're not going to be able to see over time is that it is an FD. So sometimes I put a Sharpie over that original pin mark, so I know. So that was pretty quick and easy. Going to go ahead and start working on our stencil. We'll scoot some stuff over. This is going to be a little hard to see on camera, but you're just going to go ahead and weed. Anything that you want to remain black, because that's the dye we're choosing to use. If you want to use a yellow dye or a green dye, probably not green because it is kind of green already, like a red dye, you would just go ahead and think of that when you're doing it. So anything that is black on here, we're going to go ahead and pull off. You may need to press things back down and get them back on as well sometimes. One of the things you'll want to try your best to do, and it is very hard to do, is like for the R and the O and the U and the A, on that little part. You're going to want to make sure you try to leave those, or if you can't get them, I take them all off. That way it's kind of uniform and it's not like you have the center part here and you don't for the O. So that's just my way of doing it. It is very hard because this is such a small one, but I'm going to probably fast forward this as I'm doing it just to make it smooth and a little bit quicker of a video, but I'll still kind of show you what I'm doing. So I did have one area that I kind of messed up on and I punctured a little bit. And so I am going to take a piece, I have a bunch of them on my hand from where I was doing it, and I'm just going to go ahead and take that and set it over that spot where I messed up and kind of punctured it, making sure it's not on anything that I want to come through, and just go ahead and kind of press that into it. I think overall that looks really good. That is kind of exactly what I wanted this thing to look like, because it is very similar to this. The only thing I wasn't really able to get is some of these smaller letters right here were kind of difficult, and you do want to go ahead and double check to make sure everything looks kind of lined up where it should be. And so I didn't get like the P and the D and the A, P, P, R, O, and D that centers out, and the 0 in 2011, but I'm okay with that. That is close enough to what I want it to look like, and so you'll have to determine kind of how close you want it to look. And then the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead, since this is a clear disc, to go ahead and figure out exactly where I want this thing to sit, being careful with your Sharpie to just go around it, just kind of in a big circle, just like so. Go ahead and remove your disc. Then I just gently fold the edges so you get it nice and squared up, and I just fold the two kind of edges right there, not the whole thing, and that allows me to go ahead and kind of put a line to get what is nice and straight. This one looks off just a touch. So we're just gonna leave it like that for now. I think that will work. So before we put this on there, I am gonna go ahead and get my hotbed ready. So I'm gonna scoot this out just as kind of a drop cloth in a sense. I do like to wear gloves as well. That is totally optional. I just don't like dye all over my hands. So you're gonna make sure you got the bottom of it pretty filled. You don't have to pour the whole thing out. But then I like to make sure nice and tight down. And because I don't have a huge area that I need dyed, it's just that small, I don't have to really get it up super far. Then I'm just going to go ahead and turn this on. There's a little notch at the top here. I probably should draw so you can see it on the camera. Then I put it on about 2.5. That's it. You just set it up there. You might want to move it a couple of times here and there, but overall you're pretty much done with that. And you're just looking for it to smoke. So I'll scoot it a little bit more into the camera frame. And you're just wanting it to smoke. Like I said, you're not trying to go crazy with it. And then the next thing is to get our transfer paper. And now that we have that circle, it should help us. Now this one is a little bit bigger. I did this on a wombat. And I'm going to kind of move the camera, actually. I like to have the best view possible. I'm sorry it kind of messes up your view a little bit. But with this, you just really want to make sure you are exactly where you need to be when you are the one putting it on. We want to make sure we pick up all of the letters, all of the, pretty much everything. So you're not worrying about air bubbles so much here. I mean, if it's a really big one, yes, but for the most part, no. And then we'll go ahead and peel up one of the corners, which will allow us to kind of pull it at about a 45-degree angle. And whenever you miss anything, you just kind of go back and forth. You can even flip it over too if it's really stuck in an area that's not picking up everything. Sometimes it helps to go at a little different angle. And sometimes just the friction as well helps. So I'm going to kind of keep going around the circle with it. Overall, it's looking really, really good. Oh, and your is not coming up very easily. There it goes. Okay, that looks really, really good. You can go ahead and put this off to the side. Because it's clear, you can actually see the ring around it and kind of line it up with that. You just gotta be careful not to stick it on there, especially when you got gloves on, but we are gonna need the gloves here again in a minute, so. I like that right there. I'm gonna really push down the center first and foremost. Over here you can start to see it slowly starting to smoke, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. You're not looking to boil that, just a light smoke on it is all that you need. And go ahead and push that down and in. And down and in. Now we are going to have to be a lot more careful on the front side than this, but this is just getting it to stick to the plastic, and this will also help in case you make it too deep. That's getting really hot. I'm going to go ahead and pull it off and set it off to the side, just like that. You don't want it to boil, because if it does boil, you need to go ahead and let it sit for an extra couple of minutes. Okay, now we flip it to this side. We got the whole back on there, and we want to intentionally spend some time getting this thing in, making sure all of these letters get stuck properly. Because it is a vinyl, it should work pretty well. Occasionally you get some stuff that doesn't want to stick properly, but overall that's starting to look really good, really good, really good, just like that. Now, one thing is I do like to save these, and so the original transfer paper is white, which I didn't like because it's almost the same on both sides. You want to put it down on a waxy side, and you can save. Remember, I just threw this one over here from this vinyl. just use it. It's going to do the same thing, and I like that it's blue, so I know what side to put it down on, and you can reuse these 5, 10, 12 times, which is pretty brilliant. Then we're just going to work on getting some of the air bubbles out. Again, if it's pretty, I don't know if you've watched any of my other videos, but if it's not really close to the actual design you're trying to dye, I'm not too worried. Like, I will spend a few seconds just kind of molding this around, but these big ones I don't even care about. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. They're so far from where the design is. Now, if it was right next to it, yeah, I'm going to spend some time working it out. But the big thing is just go ahead and get as many of the air bubbles out as you can. The other thing is, you can see an air bubble here. Sometimes I just push these away from it instead of to it, because they are big. And sometimes it can mess up your design, but if it's real close like this one is right here, I am going to spend a little bit of time working it out. You can work it with your fingers. You just don't want any air bubbles, because what happens is the dye goes underneath those air bubbles and kind of makes your stencil not look very good when you are dyeing it. I've also heard people use sometimes like a hair dryer to kind of warm up the vinyl. I've not tried that yet. I want to try it. I should have got a hair dryer today, but out today to try, but I did not. So if that's helpful, go ahead and put it in the comment section below that that's something you do. The other thing is, if you notice an area, this E, I was trying to work on it a little earlier and it was giving me some issues, so I was going to just wait. I'm going to see if I can get it working now. Yes, there it goes. So this is also a really good time to make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. If not, go ahead and take the time to fix it. The other thing is, sometimes I actually take off my gloves. The heat from my hand going over it, and your hands get a little sweaty as well when they're in those gloves for a long time, just kind of helps push it all down into the plastic. Because I will say, if you're scrubbing really hard with this, over time it will tear it. So do be careful of that. But spend time making sure all of the air bubbles are out and your stencil is tight to the plastic, like really stuck on there. I also have read some people like leave these overnight. I've not done that as well. I'm sure that it will be much, much better secure if you leave it for a long period of time, because that's typically how vinyls work. You leave it on there, you kind of keep it out of the rain and out of the elements, and it will adhere much better. So after you have it exactly how you want it, we're going to go ahead, mix up that dye one last time just by kind of moving it around, double checking everything on your disc is exactly how you like it. Then we're just going to go ahead and set it down in there. My hands are really slippery, so I'm just going to use a piece of tape. I should have added this into the thing, but this just kind of becomes a handle. You just take a 3 or 4 inch piece, stick it, and it just helps you kind of lower it down properly, just like so. Let that sit for a full 5 minutes. Okay, that's been 5 minutes. Go ahead, get some gloves on, make sure we're ready to go ahead and clean this thing up and get it nice and washed up and ready to throw again. I'm going to just gently move that over a little bit to give myself some extra space over here to go ahead and put the disc down in, and go ahead and get yourself some paper towels. Go ahead and lift the disc straight up. And I like to let it kind of drip back down in there. And go ahead and just put one paper towel on it. And I think I'm going to leave it in a little longer. I don't think you're going to be able to see it as well because this is a light green. So let's go ahead and do another 5 minutes. So we're just going to stick it right back down in where it was, another 5 minutes. Okay, we're back at that 5-minute mark. We'll go ahead and lift it up and just begin to wipe it off. I think that's going to look much, much better. Just going to set it down for 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and move this back up out of our way. And we'll go ahead and flip it over and begin to dry it off. Just like so. And you may not be able to see a whole lot of color change, but remember, that's what it looked like. And so it will, I think, show up pretty well. And so we'll go ahead and begin to pull it off. We still will clean it off in just a second, but this will at least allow us to begin to see what it's gonna look like. And I did a really good job pressing this one down because it is a little harder to get off than some of them. But overall, so far, I am really liking it. It's looking really nice and clean. You always have the chance that you're going to get some run spots on it. This is not an exact science, so do be careful with that. If you think you're going to get a stamp effect like from the factory, it's just not going to ever be the same as that. You can get it as close as you can, but they just have a lot better thing than trying to dye. And use a pick as needed. Do whatever you need to as needed. I'm just kind of pulling this off because most of it's kind of coming. And then we'll pick anything that is being a booger and wants to just stay on there. And we'll make sure we get a nice cleaning on it as well. It's something I really like to do because you don't want the residue on your hands or on the disc long term from the 5160 vinyl, because it will leave a little bit of residue, but it's nothing that you can't get off. So far this one's looking really, really great. That really, I think pressing it in helps a lot. And my hands were kind of warm and sweaty, which I think helps as well. Just get that vinyl activated, I guess, so it can really get down on there. And if you look at the angle I'm going with this pick, I am not doing it the same angle I was when I was getting off the vinyl. I'm going at a much less of an angle, so I'm not digging into the plastic at all. I'm pretty much just scraping off. So you just kind of keep this up. We're almost done here. There's a lot of lettering on this one, and so a lot of times when it's the real big stencils and the really big portions, it goes much faster than this, but this is kind of part of it when you're doing a really detailed die. Gonna just add just a little bit of Dawn dish soap. Hopefully that will help get some of these little ones off a little easier. Okay, got a little bit more cleaning to do. You really do want to make sure you get all that stickiness off. So a little bit of Dawn dish soap goes a long way in that bottle. Put about 3 or 4 drops. And you can kind of see, if you look, there definitely is some remnant of the vinyl. So a little bit of elbow grease is all you need, and some Dawn dish soap. I'm gonna do one more. Let that sit on there for just a few seconds while I'm getting another paper towel. The other thing is, since you did put it on the underside, you are going to want to make sure you kind of wipe some of that off as well. And there we go. That looks really, really awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and feel free to leave any comments or anything like that. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so. That really does help the channel. Make sure you watch all my videos. I have lots of other types of videos as well, everything from auto repairs to home repairs to more disc dies. Thank you so much. Have a great day.